The Rust Belt region of America was the country's backbone of production in the 19th and 20th centuries. This region would produce many a raw material and many finished products that would be distributed across the country and abroad. However, it would take much machine, technology, and infrastructure to make it all happen, much of which has been nearly completely lost or lost altogether. These are the lost machines and ruins of the Rust Belt. We start off in southern Ohio with Big Muskie. A dragline excavator, it was one of the largest machines ever built. Big Muskie was built in the late 1960s to bucket and obtain coal from the southern Appalachian foothills of Ohio. When finished, it was north of 27 million pounds and was over 200 feet high. It would operate nearly non-stop from 1969 to 1991 and would bucket hundreds of millions of cubic yards of raw earth in its time. This being a walking dragline, it could use hydraulic feet to move short distances. Market changes in the type of coal it would excavate would lead to it becoming idle after 1991, and eventually it was demolished in 1999. The bucket, however, that Big Muskie would carry would be preserved and remains as part of a park in the area. It is as large as a building and serves as a reminder and real-life example of the scale of this once mega machine. Next on this list, we'll stay in mainly the southern region of the Rust Belt, with the ruins of the iron furnaces. These furnaces, somewhat resembling the appearance of a pyramid, would mainly be used in the more mountainous and southerly regions of states such as Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, and West Virginia. To put it simply, they would refine iron ore through a near constant fire, fueled by charcoal made from timber in the area. The furnaces would stay in operation at nearly all times to maintain temperature, insulated by the brick structure of the furnace. The byproduct of the flame, iron ore, limestone, and air would be molten iron, which would then be produced usually nearby into various items of the day, such as stoves. Iron furnaces would generally fall out of favor in the later 1800s and into the early 1900s due to advances in technology, and their remains still dot the landscapes of several areas of the Rust Belt today. Next, we travel to the Great Lakes with the Hewlett ore unloader machines. Invented at the end of the 1890s, these dinosaur-like machines could be found among various ports of the Great Lakes, most commonly the ports on Lake Erie. They would end up revolutionizing the transport of iron ore. As iron ore would be brought from the Iron Range region of the northern reaches of the Great Lakes, the ore freighters would require unloading when they would reach the more southerly ports. Cities such as Cleveland, Toledo, Buffalo, and Lorain would be equipped with these machines to make the process faster and easier than ever before. Previously, all unloading was done by hand, but the Hewletts were able to raise and lower a grab bucket into the ore boats, pulling out many tons of ore with each grab. The machine would then roll back and release the ore into a train car, which would then be taken on the tracks to the mills. As time passed, self-unloading technology on ore boats would render the Hewletts obsolete. Going into the later 20th century, they would slowly vanish until the Hewletts of Cleveland, the last ones operating, were finally idled in 1992. They would remain until 1999, where they were finally scrapped. Two, however, would be disassembled and kept a few hundred feet from where they originally operated, at Cleveland's Whiskey Island. The hope is perhaps one day that they can be reassembled and displayed as a landmark of the past. Next, we have the defunct canal systems. In the early 1800s, before rails, water was the go-to method of transportation for bulk cargo, even in inland areas. The digging of canals would connect watersheds and improve transportation. Canals such as the Ohioan Erie, Wabashan Erie, and Maumeian Erie were able to connect the Great Lakes and Mississippi River watersheds. The canal boats would be simply towed on a towpath by animals, and the locks would account for the elevation changes. As time passed and railroads became more common and refined, the canals of the early 1800s would be rendered more and more obsolete. Some would see their end in the 1800s, but others would last into the 1900s. The Ohioan Erie and Maumeian Erie would see their ends in 1913, after the great floods of that year would damage them out of existence. Today, many portions of the canals and their locks can still be found today, some well preserved and some in ruins. Last on our list of lost Rust Belt machines and ruins, we have the bascule bridges, specifically jackknife and rolling lift bridges. These would largely be built in the early 1900s, and would use motorized counterweight systems to raise and lower the bridges. They could be found all throughout the Rust Belt, in cities such as Cleveland, Chicago, and Detroit, along with several others. Eventually, though, due to aging and changes in bridge designs, many would be replaced, abandoned, or demolished. There are a limited amount that still operate today, though. These machines and ruins of the Rust Belt may be lost or nearly so, but it doesn't take away their impact. Much technology and infrastructure would not be what it is today without these, and that impact lives on. Thank you for watching.